Hello and welcome to a MTWGG mod review of The Age of Petty Kings. This is, of course, a mod based upon the popular series of books by George R.R. Martin, and upon, of course, the um, kind of the more well-known, if one could make that argument, being that TV tends to be more well-known than books in this modern age of ours. Yes, anyway, based upon that world and Westeros and all sorts of fun stuff like that, I'm I'm not too familiar with the lore. I probably should have expended a little more effort and gone to my sister-in-law and grilled her about all the lore. But as far as what I've read and from what I see in this mod here, what we have is a mod set before the events, obviously, of Storm of Swords and Game of Thrones, essentially referring to the entire series. What's it called? A Song of Ice and Fire is the series title for the books, but of course Game of Thrones is the TV series. It's quite a well done mod. I am a fan of quite a few of the features. They've put a lot of effort into it here. One of the things that kind of drew me out of Immersion was probably the fact that uh, I'm clicking around on these people who are obviously following a very European style of army, and yet they're using, and the audio for the generals and whatnot is all the Islamic factions from the vanilla game. So that's a little bit of a counter immersion. However, the music is fantastic. You may have heard a little bit of it in that intro screen beforehand, and upcoming you will hear some pretty good music when we come to a battle here shortly. So I'm playing as the Hightower faction. I chose them because I wanted to. Obviously, I wanted to choose a faction kind of in the corner so that I don't get utterly slaughtered as I'm reviewing this game for you guys. Um, but I also liked the concept that was put to me with their faction, in that they're struggling against their stronger north neighbor there of the High Garden, was it High Garden House and whatnot, or Gardener as they're entitled in this game. As you can see, I've marched against their keep up there, so we'll see how that goes. Hoping that a lot of resistance didn't come down. As you can see here, they changed the names of all the units. And an interesting factor I've noticed with this game, I played a little bit as the Starks in the north there, and then a little bit elsewhere, just kind of poking around, seeing what the factions looked like. I think I also played as oh shucks, the people who own the Eyrie, or the Erie. Erie. I don't really know how to pronounce that. But either way, I played a little bit of them, and the interesting thing about the levies is that every, as you can see, every little other settlement is held by a different, like, sub-house, I guess? Basically liege lords to the High Lord here of Hightower, um, or king at the current time period. So it's interesting that they, of course, all get their varying sigils. So what you end up with is, on those South March pikemen or South March spearmen or whatnot, or knights, you oftentimes end up with a mixture on the shields of your varying liege lords. So, or vassal lords. Liege lord is the lord to whom people own allegiance, I believe, and then vassal is, so yeah, your vassals essentially. So that adds a nice diversity to the army on the battlefield, as you'll see coming up here. That's the house I'm fighting, the house gardener people there. Rather fight this battle in clear weather. I recruited those those poor fellows down there, which appear to be some sort of fanatic of the seven gods, or the seven-pointed star. I think, yeah, like I said, I read Game of Thrones, the first book, and then I watched what's currently of the series. So I'm not a lore master by any means. But I do like the concept, and I especially like the idea of a mod for Medieval 2 set in this world. I'm in general a pretty big fan of playing Medieval 2 on fresh maps, especially after having played the vanilla campaign and the other Kingdoms campaigns so much. So you see there, they're marching up. But those poor fellows performed a lot better than I thought they were going to, considering how cheap they are. I didn't want to spend the money and have the rather dragging cost of actual sellswords. So you can see he's got several groups of levies there, some from his varying vassals, of course, as well. And take out his archers. I'm playing the game on medium and medium AI, which I normally do very hard and very hard, but I wanted to do it on medium here so I could, you know, show you guys the battle scenes without too much of a worry, and though my natural tendencies may have kicked in here in that I'm not zooming in very much to show you guys the sigils on the shields and whatnot. But when I was playing the Starks, I was playing on very hard, and that was a brutal campaign. So, but that may of course also have been the position that they are in at the start of the game. And the pike lines there in the front. Pull my poor fellows down there to do combat. And at this point, of course, you can see that I've overwhelmed and surrounded the enemy, and they're currently in the process of routing. So after this, it was kind of just a cleanup. As you can see here, very quickly there are varying sigils on the shields, so it adds a nice color. There's good cutscenes, obviously, good announcement art. Some really, really beautiful announcement art, obviously. Like, I mean, look at that. It's pretty impressive. As you can see here, what do I want to do? Do I want to ransom them? I can try. Oh, rejected. I guess they're just going to get all slaughtered. So you can see some of the vanilla things were still maintained. What is the Sultan? Naam Sultan. Inshallah, we will But on the siege there, of course, you can see that that appears to be, I don't know what house that is, but that's definitely not a vanilla campaign artwork there.
I will offer the infidels a fair fight. Even if they do not deserve it, I will offer the infidels a fair fight. We move, Sultan. What is the Sultan's will? What does the Sultan
I've got a diplomat. I didn't realize I had that princess up there. Now it's interesting that that central text says something about um, marrying my princess to this Manderley fellow or something, but he doesn't seem to want to do that in game, so whatever. No marriage for you, Mace. So let's go down here to Sunspear and get all friendly with all those guys.
as my Sultan wills? We shall board at... Yes, Sultan.
Now here I am moving out to
Orders, mighty Sultan. Yes, Sultan. Great Sultan.
I think I'm going to that island. Yeah.
Orders, mighty Sultan.
Then I found, oh no, unlike vanilla campaign, unlike medieval 2 in its vanilla form, there are enemies. Dun dun, everywhere. There's not even any rebel fortresses or anything to take up there in the north either. Every piece of land is held by another house, and so you really have to fight the AI if you want to gain anything, or AI factions if you want to gain anything. But I think that adds a little bit of a bit more fun to the game. As you can see there, I kind of outwitted him strategically, because he's either going to have to withdraw or I outnumber and will take care of his 2 settlements here. That was not an easy decision. Part of me wanted to keep as many units down there at 3 towers as possible, but I decided that it was more likely to my advantage to force them to withdraw than it was to dedicate my troops to fighting what would be a very long and very bloody conflict with his main army there at 3 towers. But as you can see here, it's going to work out. As you can see, the different shields for those 2 levy groups are different types. This is his king sallying out here. The coloring on those horses is crazy bright. Like, that is some vivid purple and vivid blue. There's not too much detail on them there, but I found myself not really caring too much. I like a little color in the conflicts, but as you can see, that is really vivid. So that definitely caught my eye, but eventually the intensity of the conflict and the desire to kill his king kind of took me over, and I didn't really care after that point. Is he gonna go? Is he gonna go? He's surrounded. Stab, stab, stab. There he goes. The king of the Redwind house falls on the battlefield to a bunch of levies. So you can see that's only 5 turns in. It's a pretty harsh conflict right away. There's a ton of settlements, as you can see, and they're located pretty close in proximity. Obviously, they widen up there in the north, but I think I chose to record and comment on this one because of how close the settlements are and how intense the fighting is. Whereas in the north, a lot of it is much more wide maneuvering, and you're kind of like, well, if I go over here to kill the Boltons, for example, are the, I think it's like the mud house or some house there to the south, who are they going to come up and take my other lands? It's always that constant question. Whereas down here, it's pretty clear who you're fighting, and it's pretty harsh and quick fighting.
Yes, Sultan. Your victory.
So here, I fought that battle, killed those guys. Here's another cutscene for you to see. Some pretty good stuff. Obviously, the house words are scattered throughout the varying cutscenes. Various quotes are scattered throughout the cutscenes. One of the ones which was seen earlier, the Grey Iron one, was a little bit of an irony, considering that in the films, Greyjoy is the lord of the islands. Got myself some good coffee there. Got myself a coffee warmer, which is pretty useful. I've been enjoying it. You just set your coffee right down on there, keeps it nice and warm for you. Can't believe I've gone so long without one, really. But this is, of course, not a review of a coffee maker. This is a review of a Total War mod, so I probably should not ramble on about, well, coffee warmers, not coffee makers. That's no good. Maybe I'll just record all 16 minutes again to make up for my mistake, because I'm a perfectionist. But not really. I don't really care. In fact, I could probably care less. Anyhow, so here I am, sallying my men, and I think I'm going to take those guys and sail them up and around to support my war against the Gardeners, who are now my basically only and strongest foe.
Yes, Sultan. Inshallah, the winds shall...
As you can see, we're coming up on the end of the turn list here. There's Sun Spear out there.
Yalla, my Sultan wishes you dead.
After I took that castle to the right there, post Brightwater, but the other one there, the Gardeners have really been just kind of maneuvering around that river. I found out a little later that High Tower is just up that river, so that's probably what they've been protecting.
Orders, mighty Sultan. Inshallah, our winds shall be fair.
So as you can see, some of the things are, of course, still very vanilla. See, I like how they have those little shields down there in the building lists that tell you which family group controls that settlement.
Naam, great Sultan.
It's very true to the general lore and feel of the world, I feel. I, of course, also don't know how accurate the map is, but it seems pretty accurate to me for all I know, and the shape of the map definitely adds some very interesting strategies. For example, as the Starks, after I had killed the Boltons, I immediately struck south and attempted to secure the, what is that, it's a very vital...
Inshallah, the winds shall return to...
Now I can't think of it. I'm sure you all will know what I'm talking about. It's that, it's the fortress that everyone has to go through in order to get into the north. We'll probably go see it here later. I'll turn the fog of war off and show you the whole map there. Ah, see, ta-da! So there's the Gardeners, of course. Seem to control a lot of land there. I know they're a pretty big, powerful force in the TV series, and obviously Sunspear, those guys, they play a bit of a part. The Starks obviously in the north, the Lannisters obviously in the west, are big names. but there are a ton of little houses here and there. For example, I think while I was playing this, and you might have spotted it, but one of the, in fact, I think the last castle that I took from the gardeners there was a Tyrell? A Tyrell? Maybe Tyrell? Sam. Anyway, Sam's family, I believe. Tolly, that's it. Sam's family apparently controlled there, and I took it from them because I'm terrible. As you can see, the AI is fighting among themselves, warring and whatnot. There's Casterly Rock, the Lannisters over there. So yeah, I guess real quick in summary here, I like the textures. There is a lot of work put into this mod. There's a lot of work still being done on this mod. 2 weeks ago, it was posted that the final version will include Wildlings and Night's Watch as playable factions. So I'm probably going to get that, play as the Wildlings, and just wipe out Civilization because why not? Might as well, eh? New buildings and whatnot. So it's good that it's a mod that's still being worked on. And then the music's good. I like the music a lot. I didn't have it crash in the 10 turns I have played, of course, so I can't really speak to how it holds up. There have been, from what I've read on the forums, a few complaints about crashes here or there, but nothing really too serious. Besides, I started with Medieval 1, which crashed all the time, and so I am very much in the habit of regularly saving my games. So maybe I worry less about crashes than others might. But yeah, so beautiful mod. I will, after I finish my Felcom campaign, where I am currently continuing that Holy Roman campaign that I did the Felcom mod review for, I will probably finish that up and then move on to continuing this one. And here on end, another very beautiful loading screen.